sharing with you today about fostering love and understanding through effective communication with children. My name is Stuart Perry. I go by Mister Stu. I'm a child therapist in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I also travel the country as a keynote speaker and workshop leader, and I train at schools and different things like that, all about how to work best with kids, especially young kids. So today we're talking about how to foster love and understanding because tomorrow is Valentine's Day. It's so important for us to be able to share love in ways that kids can understand. Because as adults, we feel like we can share through words or through various other means that we can help people understand how much we love them, how much we understand them. Well, with kids, there's a few tips and tricks to remember so that you can make sure you're sending the messages that you want to be sending. Before we jump into that, though, make sure you're following Mister Stu TV everywhere on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And on YouTube, there's two different channels. There is Mister Stu TV and Mister Stu TV Parents. You can go to youtube.com/at, the little at sign, Mister Stu TV, youtube.com/at Mister Stu TV Parents. And there you can find all sorts of tips, tricks, and fun videos for kids to understand mental health better. But today, we're talking about effective communication and fostering love and understanding with kids. Like I said, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. It's the day where we show people how much we love them. And hopefully you're doing some of that each day, but definitely that's a day where it's meant to celebrate how much love you have for some important people in your life. And maybe you've heard of the 5 different love languages. There are ways that people give love and people receive love that can, by understanding them, you can foster better love and understanding through that. One is physical touch. With children, it can be hugs. It can be cuddles, whatever it might be, physical touch. There's also personal time where you just spend time with the person, quality personal time where it's just you and them, just doing something that you enjoy doing together. There's also acts of service where you're helping. And that's a way that kids love to show how much they love someone is by helping them. And it's a way that we can show kids how much we love and care for them by helping them when they need the help. There's also gifts. This one is one that kids think they accept a lot of gifts as ways to show that they are loved, but really their brains don't quite register that much most of the time. But maybe that's a way that you receive love or that you give love is through gifts. And finally, the one that we're going to focus on the most today is what are called words of affirmation. That's just praise. Whether you're giving praise for the child for doing something well or just praise because they are just amazing. That words of affirmation. And today we're really going to be focused on words of affirmation and personal time as ways to foster love and understanding through effective communication with children. There was a time in my office where we're actually in my office right now, and there is a chalkboard right over here. And there was a time where I was going through a question with a young client, and each time we meet, I ask him to rate himself on this scale from 1 to 10 about how well he's doing at something. And the way that we do it is I draw a thermometer on the chalkboard, and then I have him mark where he might be. Well, when I was explaining this to him, I was saying, yeah, so do you know what this is? Do you know what I drew? And he said, a thermometer. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I am a pretty good artist. I did a good job drawing that thermometer. And so I talked to him about what a thermometer does. It takes your temperature. And I told him we were going to take his emotional temperature to see how he was feeling about something from 1 to 10. So I started talking to him about what we were going to be measuring. We were going to see how well he feels like he can stay in control of himself. And so I'm explaining that that's going to be 1 means that you can't stay in control of yourself very much at all, and 10 means that you feel like you can stay in control of yourself all the time no matter what happens. What number would you mark yourself at? And so he looked at me and he said, oh, well, Mr. Stu, it depends on the situation. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, this young child, he is far ahead of where I would expect him to be. He's already understanding that in different situations, it's different ways. And so I said, oh, well, tell me more about that. And he said, well, in the gym, it might be different than my class. And I said, oh, wow, you see that things are different in different places. Well, tell me more about that. Tell me how we can use this thermometer to show us how it is in those different situations. And he said, well, in the gym it's hotter, in my classroom it's colder, and immediately I knew I had not connected the way that I thought I had. He was still thinking of this thermometer as a way to show temperature, and metaphors are a deep concept that are really tough for kids. Maybe you have experienced something like that. Maybe you have experienced something like feeling like you were really connecting, you were really making progress, you were really helping them understand, and you were understanding, and everybody was understanding, and it was this beautiful thing. And then something happens where you're like, oh, that is not what I thought this was. I thought we were so much further along than that. And that's something that so many parents face, especially when they're trying to show their child that they love them, that they understand them. There can be limits on vocabulary, even just the child not understanding the words that you're saying or the nuances of the words that you're saying. For instance, there are children and they come in to see me and they'll say, oh, I love you, Mr. Stu. And I understand that they love being with me. They love the things that we get to do together, and they love learning, and we have a great time. So what I say back to them is, I really like being with you too. Because that's really what they're trying to say. They're using this word love, this word that they don't quite understand. They're using it, and then I'm relaying back to them either what they meant to say or what version of love they mean. Vocabulary can be a barrier with children. There can also be the tough truth that as a parent you have to both discipline your child and show them that you love them. You have to be the good cop and the bad cop at times, and that can be really tough to juggle. Where maybe it could be, yes, David, I see communication with kids can be very difficult at times. It's so true. And this is one of those things is that, yes, I love you so much, but I have to take the tablet away. Yes, I love you so much, but you didn't earn this reward. Yes, I love you so much and you're so amazing, but... And so that mixed message can be really difficult for kids to understand. So vocabulary, working through mixed messages, and then sometimes you just run out of time. Sometimes it's not about vocabulary. It's not about mixed messages. It's just everybody's been through such a long day, and you're rushing to try to get through dinner and bed and be able to wake up tomorrow and do it all over again. And sometimes it feels like there's just not enough time to really have that connection. So let me offer you some tips. Let me offer you some tricks on how to foster that love and understanding through effective communication. And I told you we're going to be focused really on words of affirmation and personal time. So many times what I see is that we want kids to listen to us, but we haven't modeled for them how they should be listening. And the way to do that is by listening to your child first. You may want them to listen to you when you give them instructions or when you're disciplining them or whatever it might be. You might want them to listen, but in order for them to learn to listen, they have to have had that listening modeled for them. So do a quick run through in your head. Do you listen? Really listen when your child talks? Or are you trying to get them to the point? Are you trying to get them to where you want them to be? Are you trying to lead the conversation where you want it to go? Or are you really listening? Are you taking time to show them how you will listen to them? And that way when it's your turn, they know what to do. I think often we say that kids don't listen, but really it's they don't know how to listen. It's never been shown to them. Kids cannot learn something that hasn't been modeled for them. So you can say, listen, listen, listen all you want, but if you haven't listened first to show them what you want, don't be surprised when they're not able to listen to you. Even earlier, I was having a conversation with some parents who were really frustrated about some things that are going on with their child, and they kept saying, and we keep telling him that he needs to get his life together, and we keep telling him that he's got to do these things, and we keep telling him, and we keep telling him. And finally, I said, it sounds like you tell him a lot of things, but do you listen? Does he know he gets a chance to talk? And then they said, well, we tell him all the time that we tell him that if he wants to come to us, he can come and talk to us. But then he comes to talk to us and he says all these crazy things. He says some horrible words, and he says some horrible things about people that we really care about. So we're not listening to that. So don't be surprised when you are saying something that your child doesn't want to hear, something that they find uncomfortable, and they choose to tune out because you tuned out, or you re-guided the conversation, or you changed the subject when they were talking about something that you were uncomfortable with. In order for kids to listen, they have to be listened to. It's important to have some effective communication skills, and I don't just mean talking. We've all been a part of that one-sided conversation. Right now, you're kind of a part of a one-sided conversation. How annoying is it when you're talking to someone and all they want to do is reshift it so that it becomes about them? Where you tell them a long story, and at the end of it, they're, and what shirt was it that you were wearing? It's like, no, that's not what I was trying to say. I was trying to talk about this thing. Or you'll share something quite deep or maybe intense, and then it's their turn to talk, and they say, oh yeah, I have. It's, no, I want you to talk about what I am doing. This, it's not your turn to make it about you, even though it's your turn to talk. And so many times as parents, we make it about us when, yes, it's our turn to talk, but it's not our turn to make the conversation be about ourselves. Do you want to listen to the person who doesn't listen to you? I would venture to say probably not. So why are you surprised when your child doesn't want to listen when you haven't listened to them? It can seem like kids sometimes aren't really making a point. We've all heard kids tell jokes, and they are terrible at telling jokes. They don't know about a setup. They don't know about a punchline. So many times their jokes just seem out of this world, is maybe the best way to describe children's jokes. They'll say, why did the chicken cross the road? And you say, I don't know, why did the chicken cross the road? And they'll say, because the fire truck had a cookie on the raccoon. Ha 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 ha. What in the world? But are you willing to listen when your child is talking in those ways? Are you willing to let them get to their point, even if it's a point you don't quite fully understand? Are you willing to let them get out what it is they want to get out, even when it's something you disagree with? Another thing that I see parents do quite often that can make kids feel unheard is by asking questions to lead the conversation, to guide the conversation. I gave the example earlier about maybe you've shared a story, and then at the end the person says, oh, wow, and what shirt was it again that you were wearing? Maybe you've been a part of one of those conversations where the questions that somebody asks after your story, or the questions that somebody asks after you share your thought, just doesn't have anything to do with the main point of what you were trying to share. And with kids, they feel that too. Maybe they're just wanting to tell you about their day at school, and you stopped. Oh, no, why would you? Or how did you feel when? No, let them get it out. Let them share it in the way that they want to share it. Then, if you have a question about what they shared, wait until they're finished sharing and see if your question is still relevant. It's not about trying to interject your question and trying to steer the conversation and trying to make every bit of the conversation be the way that you want it to be. It's about letting the child finish their thought. And once the child has finished their thought, you can decide, is my question still relevant to the point they were trying to make? If it is, great, go ahead and ask it. If it wasn't, then it's just knowledge that you want to know. It's not what your child is trying to share with you. And if you interject those questions that aren't the clarifying questions or aren't the ones based on their main point, if you're just asking questions based on things you want to know, you're not really listening. You're trying to guide the conversation rather than hearing and understanding what the child is trying to share. Do you show interest in what your child has to say? I know. They talk about the same things over and over and over again, or they talk about things that they don't really know about, or they talk about things in ways that aren't true, or they make up things or whatever it might be, but do you let them share it the way they want to share it? If you'll do that, if you'll listen in that way and let them share it the way that they want to share it, then they are more likely to listen to you. More importantly, they're more likely to understand that you do love and care for them because you sat there through that 25-minute ridiculous rant really about nothing. But that whole time the rant was happening, their brain was saying, oh, wow, they care about me. Oh, wow, they do really love me. Oh, wow, they're listening. Oh, they are trying to understand the best they can. And those are the messages we want children to receive. Because you can say it as much as you want, but if you don't show it, children can't understand. There's also research about this, about fostering this love and understanding. As a matter of fact, the Journal of Marriage and Family found that positive communication between parents and children results in better academic, social, and emotional outcomes for children. Just by having positive communication, by being able to share and listen, both sides of communication, that improves academic, social, and emotional outcomes. As a matter of fact, in mental health, we've known this for a long time, but I wish we would shout it from the rooftops. The number one predictor for positive outcomes in kids is that they know they have at least one adult they can trust in their life. That's the number one predictor. It's not where you live. It's not how much money you make. It's not where you grew up. It's not whether you have siblings. It's not if you have both parents or if you live in a single parent. And none of that compares. The number one predictor for positive outcomes for kids is whether or not they have an adult they know they can trust. If they have that adult, positive outcomes go way up. If they don't have that adult, it's a real struggle for them. Dr. John Gottman, a renowned psychologist who has done all sorts of research on emotions and children and behavior, states that emotional awareness and the ability to manage feelings will determine your child's success in life. Whoa. Emotional awareness and the ability to manage feelings will determine your child's success in life. Now, why am I bringing that up during this part about talking about positive communication, effective communication with kids? Well, as you're listening and as they're listening, what you're doing is you're getting your brains on the same page. And so then when big things happen, when big emotional things happen, your child knows that they can come to you to either talk to you about that thing or work through that thing because they know they'll be listened to, regardless of how they want to talk about it, regardless of what they want to share, how they're feeling. They know that you will listen, and that will improve those positive outcomes that we talked about. And then Dr. John Gottman says that emotional well-being is the number one determinant of a child's success in life. Almost everything I see as a therapist comes down to this. Was the child listened to, and do they know how to manage their emotions by either talking with other people or by working on it in themselves? Well, feeling loved and understood helps create what's called secure attachment. That secure attachment helps with that regulation of emotions. So it's more than just being able to talk to your child and tell them what to do. It's more than just hearing something that you want them to say. It really is the foundation for so much success. That positive communication is a determinant for positive outcomes in academic, social, and emotional realms of your child's life. And then Dr. John Gottman says that that is the way to predict child success, is if they've learned that love and understanding and are able to regulate it in themselves. Hopefully, you've gotten some things that you can use with your little ones about listening, making sure that you model that listening so that when it comes time for them to listen, they know what to do because maybe they just don't understand. About not guiding with questions and not interjecting and not stopping them just because you don't like what they're saying, but really listening all the way to the end of what a child has to say and then deciding, are my comments and my questions relevant, or did they cover that, or it's not relevant anymore, I need to come up with something else to say, and really making it be about them and what they are trying to share. And we talked about how because of those things, if you will foster that love and understanding, if you will work on effective communication with your children, then it will improve outcomes in academic ways, in social ways, and in emotional ways. And that social, emotional, those ways, Dr. John Gottman says that that is the way to determine how successful a child is set up to be. Now, obviously, I believe that every child can be successful. I believe that every child is able to overcome anything that may have come their way and that they can be successful on the other side, but don't we want to give them the leg up? If you want to give your child the leg up, the way to do it is through love and understanding, through effective communication. To make children listen, we need to show them that we care about what they have to say. And then when it's our turn to share, they'll know how to show that they care what we have to say too. I hope that this has been helpful for you. I hope that you're able to use some of these strategies and really foster that love and understanding and be able to build effective communication with your children or the children in your life so that you can set them up for success. It's as easy as listening. It's as easy as letting them finish, and it's as easy as showing them you're working hard to understand. If you'll do that, you'll be building a stronger relationship with your child, and you'll be setting them up for success. I'll be back again in just a few weeks with another Facebook Live event. Make sure to tune into that one, and as always, make sure to follow Mister Stu TV everywhere on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And YouTube, there's two channels, the Mister Stu TV channel and the Mister Stu TV Parents channel, youtube.com/@MrStuTV and youtube.com/@MrStuTVParents. There's also lots of live events and other very exciting stuff coming right now and in the future. Make sure to check out MrStuTV.com. That's MisterStutV.com for more updates, insights, and a ton of mental health fun. I hope that this has been helpful for you, and happy Valentine's Day. I'll see you again in a couple weeks. Peace.